Welcome to Merlin Public Media's Our Local Music Show. It's not much of a title, but it says everything we need to say. Here at Merlin Public Media, we define a local band as a band that writes, records, produces, and most importantly, performs their own music. If you are a band or know of a band that might like to be featured here, please contact us at mpmradio01@gmail.com. Thank you. All right, this is Mike Merlin Means of Merlin Public Media, and today another episode of Arts Talk combined with our local music show. So here with us tonight is
Charles Neuzil of Bullhead City, Arizona.
And we're going to be talking about music. So what have you been up to, Charles?
Well, actually, a number of things. I have a lot of irons in the fire. My main thing right now, I've been playing once again out and about at the Tasa Espresso and Smoothie Bar over on Highway 95. The one it's right near Lizzie's Kitchen.
Okay.
Complex, and I started playing there last July and have been playing every Saturday for 3 hours at a time or so, three and a half hours. And so that's been really, really welcome, because while all this virus thing was going around, everything kind of shut down, and I was not playing anywhere for almost 2 years.
I understand. I watched my business almost completely collapse in on me during the first part of that whole thing.
Yeah, I can just imagine. And where I was playing, they did not start up music again, which I had no problem with, because they need to reformulate and run the business how they want to do it. That's why I started exploring some other options. And then I got a few other things I work on just in my little corner here, my little corner studio, just doing some work with some synthesizers and electronic music as well, and kind of keep that going on YouTube and SoundCloud, things like that.
That's the part that truly fascinates me. I bought my first computer a long time ago because I wanted to write non-chromatic music. And I've never gotten there. It's about the only thing I haven't done with these things.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I know right today, at least, as we sit here today, especially if you've been around a while, like, you and I are not exactly youngsters. And
no, we're not.
If you look back when we were younger, like even like high school age, early adulthood, it's just absolutely phenomenal what is available in terms of technology and the equipment that you can obtain on a relatively small budget compared to what it would have cost 30, 40 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's just it's amazing. Yeah, my very first podcast required 2 computers, a microphone, and a mixing board.
Yeah, and now people are doing that on their iPhones.
Yep. So the electronica, excuse me, is that something you've wanted to get into, or how long have you been doing that? Because
that is something that I kind of got into about 4 years ago. I've always had an interest in sound and the nature of sound. And I honestly don't know what started me kind of down this path of with the synthesizers and with the working on some of the music in the computer and things of that nature. I wish I did. Something must have happened that I started just kind of taking a closer look at it. But what attracted me really to the synthesizers first, I first got into working with hardware synthesizers, although originally my original intention was to use the computer a lot for that, do it all in the box. But I got interested in hardware synthesizers, I think because, being a horn player, I hold the horn and I play the music. And with the hardware synthesizers, there was more that I could grab onto and work with the instrument itself. And but being interested in the nature of sound, it really kind of drew me to it, and it just everything kind of evolved from there. And then I got interested in combining the horn, the trombone, with the synthesizers, and did some work with that, and then some other things that are just strictly. I've done it anywhere, just all in the computer. I've done things where I've recorded hardware synthesizers into the computer, and all the whole thing. So it's been a lot of I've really enjoyed it. A lot of fun. Probably maybe a little too diverse because I'm kind of scattered all over the place, but I do enjoy it.
Well, you'll either stay diverse or you'll work your way into a niche and stay in there and go forward. But, as long as we go forward, that's all we really got to do.
Yeah, I think that's you're absolutely correct. With a lot of the electronic part of all this, I'm still kind of in the exploration stage and trying a lot of different things with it. I think with the horn, I've kind of settled in on some, areas that I can work in, and in terms of like when I play at the espresso bar, the kind of stuff that I do there. And it's pretty narrow as far as what I do. And I don't think a lot of people do that as such, and not everybody necessarily would enjoy it either, which is okay, but a lot of people do, and it seems to no age bounds there. I mean, there's older folks that enjoy what I do with the trombone. I've had younger people just be extremely complimentary on what I've been doing with it, so it's kind of cool.
It's a fun horn. I was a baritone guy back in my high school days, and I kind of dropped performing music, and I went to, the stage end of everything, and stayed there up until, well, very recently. And I understand that hands-on thing. So many people are using computer-driven light boards, and there's nothing to touch.
Yeah,
and I don't like it.
Yeah, you understand what I'm talking about there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I need to get my hands on something when I'm doing my art. Just like you, I got to touch something.
Yeah, and even with the software synthesizers, I'll have MIDI keyboards that I'm at least playing on that. So at least I'm working with something with my hands, even when I'm using those. But yeah, it's definitely. I remember that now about the baritone. I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really love about the trombone, and I'm a big proponent of it. When I was younger, it was not a very popular instrument, and I'm not so sure it's all that popular now. Although there's a lot more trombone players out there. If you were young and starting off, there's a lot more people to listen to than there was when I was young and starting off. But the thing I really love about the trombone is it's all the range is right in the range of the human voice. And the reason why I enjoy playing so many jazz ballads, for instance, is, and I'll listen to vocalists sing it. That's usually what I'll do, is I'll listen to vocalists and how they're singing these things, because the trombone is a perfect instrument to replicate the sound of the human voice with all the, that slide gives you so many options in terms of creating different sounds on the horn. And that's one reason I really enjoy it.
And you're using a straight horn, not a valved?
Correct. Yeah.
That just seems kind of a little bit of a cheat to me. I don't know, on a trombone, you just kind of take something away. You've got a baritone with a slide, I mean.
Yeah, it does. I almost bought a valve trombone several years ago, just because they're kind of cool, and I thought it'd be fun to have. And this one was somewhat would have been neat to have. It was an old trombone. It was from the 50s and it was in good shape, but I passed on it. But the problem with valve trombones is they have intonation problems, because when we're playing with that slide, they talk about positions on the slide for different notes, but there's a third position. That's just general. I'm always moving that slide around to get the note correct, to get the right intonation. And if you're with valves, it's very difficult to do that. You're kind of stuck.
Yeah. Okay, let's step into tech a little bit. What's your DAW of choice? What are you recording in?
What I've been using is called Mixcraft. It's a Mixcraft 9. They're up to version 9. When I first got into this about 4 years ago, I was looking at some various options, and the Mixcraft was always in the, like when you look the best DAWs available and things like that.
Yeah.
It always landed in the top 10. Everything, and my wife will tell you this, but before I buy anything or dive into anything, I do massive amounts of research, and I'll spend 6 months digging into something just to see what I want, even if it's like headphones. And I did that with the DAW. And originally I wanted to get live, Ableton.
Yeah.
And I do have Ableton, not the really expensive version, and it's not the light version. It's kind of like the middle version. It's like a standard version I got a deal on that is somewhat limited on tracks, like 16 tracks. But the Mixcraft, though, like I say, I always made the top 10, and I did not want to spend a lot of money when I was first getting into this. And they run $179, and they were having a sale at the time, $99. And the Ableton would have run me close to $300. And I thought, well, I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this. So I opted for the Mixcraft, and because it did have good reviews, and it's got a lot of stuff in it. And it's been very good for me. It's very intuitive. It's easy to get around, and it's been very successful for me personally. That being said, I do want to start shifting over, and I've done a few things in live in the Ableton, and probably will invest in one of the upgraded versions of that here over the next year, because there's some things that it does that I want to get more involved with down the road.
My only experience with Ableton is using it as a cue driver for live performances in theater.
And
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's interesting, Mike. You mentioned that about live performances, because that's why I want to use it more, because I'm trying to, when I play with the trombone, when I do go and play different places or whatever, I pretty much am just playing with backing tracks. And I've got some ideas to expand that and do some different things with that. And the Ableton would allow me to do that as far as triggering different sections of a track or whatever. And then I've also been slowly working in some of the hardware synthesizers with the trombone. I've been taking it to one of my synthesizers, I've been taking it to Tassa and using it on one of the tunes I play. And so I'll be playing with a backing track with the synthesizer and the trombone. So that's kind of where I'm going with that.
Okay, so what do you got in your arsenal over there? I know I can see it, but nobody else can. So what kind of synths are you running?
I have the first one I bought, and since you can see, I'll hold up so you can see it. First one I bought is a Korg Monologue. That is the one that kind of got me into all this. And again, that was after about 6 months of really diving in and checking some things out. It's a monophonic synthesizer. It's an analog monophonic synthesizer. But for a small machine, it's got 25 keys, I think. It does a lot, and it's got some really nice sounds, and I've been able to create some of my own sounds on it and use it for various purposes. And so that's been really convenient and nice. The second thing I purchased is an Arturia Drum Brute Impact drum machine, which again, I did a lot of background information on it before I purchased it because I wanted a drum machine. I'm pretty limited on space, so I'm not buying really big stuff. And that drum machine's about probably a little bigger than the Monologue synthesizer that I just mentioned. It's a pretty cool drum machine. It's got a lot you can do on it. There's a few things that could be better, but it served my purpose as well. I have a couple of these small Korg, also by Korg, these Volcas, which, you look at them and you think, well, gee, what can that do? These things can make some killer sounds. I've got a Volca bass, which has an MS-20 filter on it, which is one of the famous filters that Korg has made. But it creates some really nice sounds. I've got this Volca kick, which pretty much is like just what it says, kick sounds and things like that. And then I also have, this one is really cool. It's a Volca FM. They just came out with a second version of this. But it is, if you're familiar with the old DX7, it has a lot of sounds that are very similar to that. I mean, it's these things are very deep for a small package. Then I've got a Behringer Neutron, which I have not spent a lot of time with, but it's a semi-modular synthesizer. And the time I have spent with it, it's got some really cool sounds in it. It's a paraphonic, so I can do two sounds at once on that. This Volca FM is a polyphonic, so I can play multiple notes at once on it. Then I've also got a Yamaha 10-channel mixer that I can mix everything through. I've got a Focusrite audio interface with 6 inputs, so I can be recording 6 different things at once. And then I've got some KRK Rocket 5 speakers that I have here. I usually use those speakers or these Biodynamic DT770s. These are really nice headphones that I use if I need to be quiet.
Sometimes you got to, yeah.
Yeah, and I got a couple small little things, couple little drones. I've got a number of guitar pedals. I've got a Boss reverb and delay pedal. I got those two that are really nice. I've used those on the trombone and the synthesizers, and also TC Electronics distortion pedal I've used on the trombone. And I just got one thing I just have that I have not. Oh, I forgot my favorite one here. It's all wired in, although I can't pick it up. I got a Behringer TD3, which is a 303 clone. And that thing is a blast, man. I have had more fun with that. I've got that on a couple of the recordings I sent you that I've used it on, and I really have fun playing with that one. And I did buy recently, and I have not had time to mess with it, but I really want to, because this is something I've been wanting to do for a long, long time, a Crybaby wah-wah pedal and a MXR Blue Box pedal, which will give me octaves. And what the plan is to combine those two, the wah-wah pedal, which acts as a filter, and this MXR Blue Box that'll give me some octaves, and run the trombone through that.
So run up or down or both?
It'll give me an octave below. If it all works right, it should give me an octave below what I'm doing.
Wow.
And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. I gotta see how that goes.
Everybody doing electronic music is it's experimental from the beginning to the end to your final piece.
It is. You just kind of play around with some of this stuff. Many years ago, I had used a Boss delay pedal that a friend of mine I used to play with. He is a jazz guitarist, and he pulled it out, and I connected that, and I was playing my trombone and playing Summertime, the tune Summertime, using that delay pedal. And it sounded really cool. So I've always wanted to get a delay pedal again. So I finally got one a few years ago so I could start using that. And then, and I got a couple of microphones, well, probably 4 microphones now that I use on it. Because even for the lessons I give, a lot of times I'll record things for students. So I got all that so I can do some decent recordings for them as well.
Yeah, Behringer has been going crazy the last year, pounding out synths. I mean, they're just doing all kinds of I think they have 3 in production right now that they just send out beta. So they're really pushing in the synth market.
They really are. They've done a lot with these clones, like the 303 clone that I picked up. They've done a lot with that, and they have had a few original ones, like this Neutron, which I really like. And I guess they're going to come out with another one uh, called the Proton, I guess. So I might have to invest in that when it comes out, because I have enjoyed that.
Well, what's going to come after those two is going to have to be the Electron, then, huh?
That's what I'm waiting for. Yeah, it's funny. The Neutron is red, and the Proton I saw, that one's blue. So I'm not sure what the Electron will be, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, they make some good stuff. They make some good stuff. I don't hear much bad about them. But yeah, okay. So tell me about the music we're going to be listening to after this interview.
I gave you a kind of a myriad of things I've been working on, and it was funny going through some of that, because I realized how crude I was recording some of this stuff early on. I think I sent you one that was made, believe it or not, on the iPhone, and because I was looking for, usually I'll have audio recordings of all of these when I'm finished, and I'm looking, I couldn't find anything, and I realized all I had was a video that I had done on the iPhone and then converted to an MP4 and put it on YouTube. But what the different music that I sent you is a combination of some things I did with the synthesizers and the trombone, which is what I wanted to try and combine. I did, for instance, I have one of them in there. I did that Duke Ellington tune "Caravan," where I did. That was kind of fun to put together, because what I did was, I don't know how familiar you are with William S. Burroughs. He was he's always categorized as a beat writer from the 50s, although he was much older than the beat writers. But he had this cut up technique with writing, where he would cut up different written pieces and rearrange the pieces and create, something new. And so with Caravan, I did that with Caravan, where I played it as written, basically, and then I kind of rearranged everything, and the center is kind of all rearranged, and then it goes back to the standard version. But I was using the monologue on that, and that drum machine, and I don't know if I was using the 303 clone on that one or not, but that was pretty cool. One of them I did was where I used the 303. I did. In fact, speaking of William Burroughs, I found an audio clip of him, and I did originally I gave you the audio, but it was kind of designed more for a YouTube video, and I've got that one on YouTube. It's about 9 minutes long, I think, but I play the horn on that and some synthesizers and some different things, and so that one was kind of cool. And I even gave you a version I did of Vince Guaraldi's "Christmas Time Is Here," which is one of my...
I recognize that one.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite Christmas tunes. I had run into this guy. One of the cool things about the technology and the internet is some of the connections you can make with people who you would never make connections with otherwise. And somehow, I still don't know how, I got connected with this piano player in Chicago. And so he did the piano part for me on Vince Guaraldi's "Christmas Time Is Here," and then I played with his piano part, and then did a YouTube video at Christmas time. I think it was 2 years ago now, fall of 2020, I believe. So that's one of them I gave you. That's more like what I would be playing at the espresso bar, just the horn with a tune. But I also gave you, I did a version of "Summertime" with the synthesizers and the trombone, and then also some Indian classical music that I did. Like I say, I'm always... and then as far as in the box, I did some space ambient music I gave you. I think "Between the Stars" I called it. And then most recently, I gave you the first two of what I hope to be an entire album of music that I'm creating in the computer. I haven't used a lot of audio outside yet. Most of it's been software synthesizers and things of that nature. And I started corresponding with this guy. I ran into this guy he's out of Paris. and he's into like noise metal music and things like that, which is, I don't do that, but we've got some common interests. And he kind of gave me the idea of creating different musical pieces based on the writings of Franz Kafka. And I happen to enjoy reading Kafka, so it was pretty easy for me to start doing. So I've done 2 so far on Kafka short stories. The first one I did was based on his short story, A Hunger Artist, which I entitled This Too Shall Pass. That's on YouTube and SoundCloud. And then the second one I just finished, a few weeks ago now. That one I finished over Christmas time, and then I finished another one a few weeks ago called Awakened Dreams, which is based on a country doctor. And I'm working on the third one right now, which is based on his rather lengthy short story, In the Penal Colony. And that's been kind of fun. I think I got most of the sounds down on that one I want to use. And so I gave you those 2 as well. And that kind of rounds it out right now anyway.
Well, this is all fascinating. I said it was an interest of mine, but I never quite had, talent.
Well, it's funny because I do things. I even got a Bach harpsichord piece, a short one that I used a different synthesizer on and a drum machine and just created something totally different out of it. I think I sent you that one too. It's a short one, but I'll play these for my wife as I'm going through and I'm, getting things together on them, because she'll be brutally honest with me. If it's not sounding good, or if it's not right, or this or that, or if it's like, she'll tell me. But I'll do things and she'll just look at me and she says, I don't know how you figure this stuff out. But it is a lot of work. It's not something you just sit down and just crank out in one evening.
No.
I'll spend a lot of time, and then I'm a perfectionist, so I keep making all these little adjustments and changing things here and there. And at some point I have to stop myself and say, you know what, it's 99.9% there, and I'm just going to leave it as is. And we're going to put it out there. And then I just move on.
I understand that part. You if someone or something doesn't stop you from making tweaks on anything you're working on, then you're going to do it forever.
Yeah. And the way you get better at this stuff is to do it. So
yes.
I try to keep doing new things and new projects. I mentioned the first thing I did was just that video on the iPhone. Well, I could have spent a year doing that one if I wanted, but you just keep doing. The more you do, the better you get at it, and the more you figure out, and it's a great learning experience. It's hard to do. I still have a day job that's very demanding, and I come home at night and I'm tired, but I seem to manage to get all this stuff in somehow, one way or another.
Well, yeah, and I'm happy that I follow your newsletter. I follow you on Facebook. Let's do this while we're bringing that up. How do people find you and your music?
If you Google Charles Neuzil, N like November, E-U-Z like zebra, I-L. If you just Google my name, usually the first thing that pops up is my website. And if it doesn't, if you just add music, Charles Neuzil Music, definitely the website will pop up, because I have a website, charlesneuzilmusic.com. And right on the front page, there's some buttons there to YouTube and to SoundCloud and to Instagram and Facebook. And so you can get to all of those right off the website. And so that'd be the easiest way to find my stuff. On the website, I've got some music you can listen to as well, and some blog posts and things of that nature. I also have a calendar with all my appearances. So I always put in there where I'm going to be playing, usually like now, usually it's at the Tassa Espresso Bar, but, every now and again, I do have other things that I will go play at or do. And so they'll always be in there in that calendar. I try and keep that out a month or two.
And you just wrapped the being in the orchestra for the High School Musical, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, we were planning every year. The high school does a musical in the spring, the local high school here, and there's a number of us here locally that will always jump in and help with the pit orchestra. So the pit orchestra ends up being a mix of high school students and community members, and it seems that the community members, by and large, were all educators in one way or another, and a lot of the local music teachers will play in that, and they usually ask me to. Well, they have always asked me to cover the trombone parts in it, and so that's always been very enjoyable. This year, we had a little bit of an issue with once we got working with the high school kids that were doing the performance on the stage. They were having difficulty singing with us, and there were a number of reasons for that. One was that they had purchased a performance track. In the past, they usually would just maybe buy some piano parts just to practice singing, but they got the actual performance track this year, and they were practicing with that, and which is a lot different than live music, a live orchestra, and so they weren't used to us, and the cues were different, and they weren't used to the conducting with Miss Rivlin, who's a wonderful lady, the band and music director at Mojave High School. And then we also, this is the first year we did not have a piano. It was kind of a bad scheduling. The week of the performances was during the Holy Week, so all of the piano players in town that we would have had in the past were already committed to playing at different churches.
Yeah.
And so the kids were having a tremendous problem trying to sync up with us. And we had a private chat down in, I call it the basement, down in the pit. And we right away, we said, you know what, they're used to that performance track. It's all about the kids,
Yes.
And we're there to help them to make the experience better. And we were right away said, nobody's ego was in it. We want them to have a good experience. So what they did this year was they went ahead and moved forward and sang with the performance track. That decision was made literally, believe it or not, the night before the opening night.
Oh my.
But they'd been working with that performance track, so they were comfortable with that. So they were able to just jump in and do it. But it was the best thing for the kids, and I know that way they could have. And the other thing, Mike, I thought about this. The last time that we did a musical with the high school like that was 3 years ago. And that meant, the director, that was the first time he was directing a show like that. And the kids, that was the first show for everybody. In the past, there were always, let's say, high school seniors that, they were in the show last year as juniors.
Right.
They had experience, and they could bring out, the ones that the younger kids that they hadn't done it yet, they could help them out and bring them forward. So there were kids that had already been through it and had experience. This was first time for everybody.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That makes it kind of challenging.
Oh yeah, but it was good for me because we had a number of practices, and it's always good to play in a large ensemble like that. There were about 15, 16 of us, about half, like I had 50 high school kids and the rest of us adults. And I don't have a chance to play in larger groups like that, let alone larger groups with a conductor to follow, So it's always a good experience for me.
Yeah, art is a little lax. Not lax, but there's nowhere near enough art in the immediate area, and that's why I'm doing a lot of these interviews. I'm talking to bands, musicians, all kinds of people in the arts, and just trying to bring this forward to people, because there are amazing artists in the area. They just tend not to be working together.
You're absolutely correct. I played for 3 years before the virus. I had played at the Black Mountain Art Show with the River Valley Artists Guild.
Yeah.
and I would play like music there while during their show, their final reception, and there's always amazing work there. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people out there that are creating a lot of different art, whether it's music or painting or photography, whatever it might be. And that idea of creativity, it's something I'm really interested in this whole idea of creativity, and like why do I do what I do? This is not something that I'm like making tons of money at or anything like that, but there's something going on with the creative process, and I'm convinced that as humans, that's part of us. That's part of being a human, to create. And when you create and engage in creative activities, you become a better human being. And if everybody, the people that do that, and if everybody does even a little bit of that, it makes humanity as a whole better. And that's what advances humanity. I mean, creativity is essential to the survival of humanity and the future of humanity. So it's important. It's really important.
It is, and like I say, I'm able to support that kind of stuff now, and I'm really happy because, I really can't do my personal art forms, but I can help everybody else get out there with this, and and this is not an easy task that I'm doing here. I mean, but it's enjoyable. I get to have in-depth talks with people like you and about the music and making it, and it just makes everybody's life a little more interesting. Someone might listen to this and say, I need to grab me a trombone, or what is this synthesizer stuff? And, and who knows, we could have the next Klaus Schultz come out of the area. By the way, you did hear that he passed.
I did hear that. And he's one that, he was phenomenal. I listened to a lot of his work to get ideas. I'm constantly listening to music for ideas, and I listened to a lot of his stuff. He was pretty amazing.
I actually got to see Tangerine Dream once.
Oh wow!
It was a small, by small I mean 1,200 seat theater in Columbus, Ohio, for the Optical Race Tour, and it was amazing.
Man, that had to be pretty cool, Mike.
It was great. It was one of my highlight lifetime concerts. Wow. But yeah, I did miss some others. I've never seen Kraftwerk. Of course, that may still come to pass. I don't know, but those two were my intro to electronic music, between Tangerine Dream and Kraftwerk, and then some Jean-Michel Jarre, on top of that, and then just expanded. Oh, geez, I can't remember his name. I could see it's a Czech synthesist. I could see a picture of a concert. He's in this gigantic pyramid suspended over a river.
Yeah.
Vangelis.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, he was pretty an amazing guy. I saw a documentary on him, and I thought, holy cow, this guy you talk about a creative person. He was.
Yeah. Did you ever see a picture of his rig? It's a custom design.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah, in the documentary, I remember they were.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And then what was it? One of my favorite complaints. Dahlia Derbyshire. She wrote I'm sorry, she didn't write. She realized the original theme for Doctor Who.
Oh, okay.
Okay, somebody else did the concept, but back in the old days, they called it realizing it, like with Synergy. It was done on punch cards. But she realized it, and I'm a Doctor Who fan. I mean, lifetime fan. There's no credit to her on any episode, anywhere, ever. Which is kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, that is. That is, and then that does happen. You remind me of the studio musicians in the '60s. There's a really nice documentary on them as well called "The Wrecking Crew," and the hundreds of records they played on, and their name never appears anywhere.
Yeah. Yep. It's a tough business. If you're going into music, have a backup plan because it's going to be a while before it makes you money. It just is.
Well, that's very true. When I got out of high school, I wanted to go into music. I wanted to be a musician. And I kind of, at the last moment, decided to go in a different direction for that reason that I thought, well, I'll go, I guess I was being conservative and going for the sure thing, but I kept doing it on the side. And so I realized that you can still engage in musical activities without making it your main source of income.
And breaks happen to the weirdest people at the weirdest times. There's a band I interviewed recently, and they're on the cusp of a big break. And I'm mentioning no names right now because I don't want to jinx anything for them.
Yeah,
but they're on the cusp of a really big break. And, I wish the guys so much because, it's few of us that make it. But
yeah, no, you're right. But that's an interesting subject all in itself too, because really, if you look at the history of music, the idea of making a living at it, let alone making a lot of money at it, is a relatively recent occurrence. Like really in the past century. And if you go back in through the history of music, people typically did it more for enjoyment. And if you were making money at it, it's because you were hired at the local church, or maybe you had a patron who, was at least able to keep a roof over your head while you were doing it. And so it's not something that typically people went into to make tons of money at.
Well, if you have an art form in you, it's very hard to keep it in there and not let it come out. It's hard to stifle, whether you're a writer, a musician, singer, lighting designer, whatever. It's hard to keep that inside. It's gonna come out.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with making money at that. That's not what I'm saying, but definitely the landscape of the music business has definitely changed over the past 20 years. And again, a lot of it has to do with the technology. And it's kind of cool though, Mike, because it really has, I refer to it as the democratization of music, because more and more people are able to get into this type of thing, but also be able to share it. And like you said, it doesn't have to be, you can put something on a YouTube channel or SoundCloud, or if you're able to play somewhere locally or what have you. And if some kid sees you and it sparks the kid, or an adult, I've had adults, I was just talking to an adult the other day who always wanted to play the drums, and he was talking to me and we were talking about music because he knows what I do, and he's come to see me a couple times, and he's at the point where he's going to go invest in a drum set. He really wants to do it. That's cool. I mean, you're sparking that creative interest and flame in somebody else that's going to pass on to somebody else, and on and on and on. And that's something that sometimes I think we overlook. There's a lot of non-monetary aspects to what we do that are very beneficial to people in general.
My middle school music teacher, Robert Fitzer, okay, about 4 times a year, he would tack a letter on the bulletin board in the music room. We'd like to hire you for a first chair clarinet for X symphony. 3-4 times every single year. And he'd tag him up there. And we're like, what's up? You're in this little dinky town in Ohio. and you're teaching kids, and you've got a chance to like be famous. And he said, fame isn't important to me. If I make one extraordinary musician in my lifetime as a teacher, then I will be a success.
Yeah, it's I would agree completely with that. In fact, I've talked to more people when I've been out playing the trombone. People a lot of times will talk to me about things, and it's, you would be amazed how many people will come up to me and say, yeah, I had somebody just last Saturday do this. Really nice lady came up, and when she was in high school, and I think she was my age, when she was in high school, she had played the tenor saxophone, and she loves jazz, and she played in high school, in the jazz band and things like that. And she had such fond and positive memories and experiences, and that's something that stayed with her and makes her a better person today. And it's just amazing how many people have that experience, either as children or a lot of adults who decide that, hey, this is something I want to try to do.
Well, whatever your art is out there, people, whatever it is, pursue it to some degree. Do something, read, study, and bring that part of you out, because we've all got it. We've all got it, but life has taught so many people to bury the artist, that it gets in the way, that you will never be successful as whatever you want to be. If you spend too much time with your art, it just takes away. And no, that's not true. Your art, whatever your art is bringing more out of you. It's giving gifts to your friends, and you're just a better human being if you let your art come out.
Yeah. And you know what, Mike? There's as adults, there's another big benefit that we now know. I'm really into the brain and how the brain works, and I'm constantly reading books on the brain and the latest neuroscience on the brain. And my wife's a good example of this. She'll be 65 in July, and she's retired 3 years ago now. But she always wanted to play the piano, and never did, and wishes she had when she was a child. Well, guess what? About 4 years ago, we got an electric keyboard for her. Well, that was about 7 years ago, but about 4 years ago, she finally started doing something with it. And she thought, okay, I'm going to learn how to play this. And she started looking at some YouTube videos, and I offered to get her lessons. And she's, no, I'll see if I can figure it out. And after about 2 months, she said, I think I need those lessons. She's been taking, and so she's been taking piano lessons locally here for 3 years, and she plays almost every day. And it's phenomenal what she's doing. And the thing is, those types of activities, when adults engage in those types of activities, you're building brain capacity. That's something that goes to our longevity. And to have that brain capacity, we all know people, I know family members that have suffered with dementia and Alzheimer's. Well, building that brain capacity, there's enough research out there that says that's what is going to stave that off. And so to engage in these type of activities, like you mentioned, whether it's painting or learning new skills with music or take up an instrument, you're building brain capacity that you didn't have before. And the more the better there.
Yes, indeed. As we're all getting older, sometimes I shake my head at how old I've gotten to be, and then I realize my wife's got 7 years on me, and
then you feel better.
Yeah, and she still puts up with me. I mean, 26 years, a woman puts up with me. I don't know. Something's wrong with one of us.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know where the time goes either. It's just I'm flabbergasted by that.
Well, let's wrap this up. That's a couple of things we want to go over one more time before we call it a night here. First things first, where can people find you and your music one more time, please?
Just go to charlesneuzilmusic.com, and Neuzil is spelled N like November, E-U-Z like zebra, I-L. Also Czech, by the way, Mike, and or a Czech name. That's where our family hails from. And or if you just Google Charles Neuzil, I've done it myself just to see what comes up, and my website comes up right away. And you go to that website, you can find where I'm going to be playing with the trombone, and I got buttons right on the page right there. You can click on, go right to the YouTube channel, SoundCloud, things like that, and see what I've been doing.
Okay, and the last one, which is also a repeat, where can we see you play?
At Tasa, it's Tasa, Tasa Espresso Bar, Tasa Espresso Plus Smoothie Bar. And if a lot of people are familiar with Lizzie's Kitchen on Highway 95, it's right across from the Human Bean, just north of Walmart, the old Walmart. And it's in the same complex there on the other end of where Lizzie's Kitchen is. It's a great place. In fact, Jade Mallory, who owns Tasa, she is opening a second location in Fort
Good for her.
Yeah, she is really cool. We've known Jade for about, 15, 16 years now, and wonderful, wonderful girl. She's just, and wonderful family, but she's opening a second location. It's in the old National Bank of Arizona building down towards Aztec Road. The McDonald's is down there, and Smith's and Safeway.
Okay.
And just north of there on the east side of the street, right next to there's I can't remember which car lot is right there, but that's probably going to be open in May. And what the plan is for me to alternate Saturdays there. One Saturday I'll be in the Bullhead location, and the next Saturday I'll be down in Fort Mojave, back and forth.
Well, that's just cool. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I've been looking forward to this interview since the day I decided to start doing these. So
that's
thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Mike. That's very kind of you to say, and I really thank you for letting me chat with you. I always enjoy doing so, and I always enjoyed our chats before, just when we've been meet up somewhere and bump into each other. And so I appreciate it, and definitely, like you say, if it can spark somebody to start doing something out there, I think that's great.
Me too. All righty. Thank you, Charles, and I will hopefully talk to you soon.
You bet. Thanks so much, Mike. You have a good one.
All right. Good night.
Okay, bye. As Gregor Samsa awoke one morning from uneasy dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a gigantic insect. Gregor Samsa, Gregor Samsa, Gregor Samsa, Gregor Samsa, Gregor, 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 Gregor,
Said so. Galileo says, tells him the earth is round, and he was burned at the stake for saying so. Says, I'm